It's time for the Your Personal Bank Show with Ferenc Toth. In an era of chaos, confusion, and craziness, Ferenc is a voice for common sense. As a financial literacy educator, speaker, and entrepreneur, Ferenc cuts through the noise to help us understand how current events affect our money, economy, and our freedom. Now, here's Ferenc Toth.
Welcome to the Your Personal Bank Show. This is Ferenc. If you want to reach me, you can do so at yourpersonalbank.com, or you can go to the Your Personal Bank app, or email me at ferenc@yourpersonalbank.com. That's F-E-R-E-N-C, no E, F-E-R-E-N-C @yourpersonalbank.com. So the markets have shown some weakness since the beginning of 2026. The Iran war has caused some concern. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Is this a period of consolidation, or are we looking at the beginning of a correction? It's hard to say at this moment. It's too early to tell. The big economic news is really in the housing market. Existing home prices to pending sales has now hit the widest gap ever recorded. If you look at the chart, say over the last decade, housing prices just keep going up on an upward incline significantly, while pending sales, starting at about 2022, fell off a cliff and have stayed there ever since. Become such a huge gap, the price being so much higher than the pending sales, this is just incredibly unsustainable. Pending sales are below the levels they were then in February 2009. That was the depths of the Great Recession. This is the largest housing demand depression in history, and the charts are still going down. So it's hard to say when it's going to end. And this is all happening without a recession like we saw in 2008. So far, we're not seeing a huge spike in unemployment. There's not a big credit crisis or any forced selling. Imagine what would happen if we saw some real economic stress. And here's another myth about real estate that I think needs to be dispelled. I even fell for this one myself for a while. We've all heard this, that there's a housing shortage in the U.S. According to the Federal Reserve, housing supply divided by population is the highest it's ever been since been tracking these numbers starting in 2000. We've never had more housing per person than we do right now. Problem isn't supply, it's actually the prices. This then explains why we're seeing the largest gap of sellers and buyers. MLS data estimates there's about 2 million sellers currently in the U.S. and only about 1.3 million buyers. That's a gap of almost 700,000, which is the largest measured since they started tracking the numbers back in 2014. And this is why Google searches for "I can't sell my house" have just hit a new all-time high. The searches have literally gone through the roof. And there's a number of reasons behind it. The income needed to buy the typical U.S. house has increased 79% in just 6 years. Wages certainly didn't increase 79%, and neither did productivity. The American dream has gotten 79% more expensive, and people still wonder why the housing market is frozen. It's now reported that 49% of Americans are now struggling to afford their rent or mortgage payments, which is one of the highest levels ever recorded. You know, this means that half of Americans are struggling to make their rent or house payments. And the most common sacrifices are eating out less, skipping vacations, delaying medical treatments. Housing has never been so unaffordable in the U.S. and leads to a weakened economy. Now, there's some bright spots in the housing market. Lennar, the second largest home builder, has cut prices 24% from the peak. In 2022, the price on their new homes was $491,000. They're now $374,000, which is $110,000 less in just a matter of 3 or 4 years. Imagine if you had bought one of those homes at the peak around 2022 and paid $490,000 for it, and you're now $100,000 underwater 4 years later. The price of a new Lennar home in the first quarter of 2026 is actually lower than pre-pandemic levels. This is positive news for home buyers. Housing deflation is starting to set in, and Lennar and some other home builders are the ones leading the charge in returning affordability. And you see this question a lot is, well, why have all the buyers disappeared? They haven't. They've just run the numbers. If you take a $500,000 house with a 3% interest rate, the payment is under $1,700 a month. That same house with a 6.5% interest rate is over $2,500 a month. It's nearly $1,000 a month more expensive for the same house. And the majority of Americans simply can't afford it. And to put things in perspective a little bit, if housing prices had simply followed income growth since 1970, do you know the average home today would be $138,000? I'll grant you the typical home today is larger than in 1970 and is nicer and has more amenities. But that's still a staggering difference of what the median house based on average growth income from $138,000 to today over $400,000. That's a massive difference. And it doesn't look like there's going to be a lot of relief in the housing market soon because inflation did just come in a little bit hotter than expected at 3.9%, which means the Fed's very unlikely to lower interest rates. And the other metric the Fed looks at is unemployment. Now, again, that's something you have to understand a little bit. In 1994, the Clinton administration changed how it measured people looking for a job. They changed it to only people looking for a job in recent weeks, rather than the total number of adults out of work. So that's why you always see the number around 4% or so, even though about a third of the adult workforce doesn't have a job. In fact, according to the Federal Reserve, a record 104 million Americans are now outside of the labor force. This exceeds the COVID shutdown period when nearly the entire economy was shut down. And in terms of total numbers, the number of adults not working has increased 35 million since 2000. Now, granted, we have a larger population than we did in 2000, but if you put it in terms of percentage of total population, we have the highest percentage of adults, working age Americans, out of work since the 1970s. There are real cracks in the labor market. And Jerome Powell, current chair of the Federal Reserve, although I've not been a huge fan, has expressed concern recently about the labor market. And in this, I'm in agreement with him. I think he's correct. And one of the things he's also brought up is the massively increasing numbers of foreign labor that is causing the Fed real concerns. And this does not bode well for lowering interest rates and helping the housing market. Stay tuned in the next segment. I'll share some more points about this that I think you'll find extremely valuable. And if you want some advice on how to navigate what certainly looks like continued uncertainty with the economy for a number of reasons, contact me at yourpersonalbank.com for more information.
Stay tuned for more common sense from Ferenc. For more information, contact Ferenc at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422.
This is Ferenc, host of the Your Personal Bank Show. My show focuses on creating tax-free buckets of money, insured, guaranteed, highly liquid, and the ability to create positive arbitrage. Did you know this is the best time in over 40 years to invest in index annuities? An index annuity allows you to 1. Grow your money safely without market risk. Once gains are locked in, they're guaranteed against future market loss. 2. Double-digit potential upside on good market years with no losses in bad years. Principal is guaranteed. 3. A 7 to 8% fixed interest option is available in the first year. If you're interested in growing your money with potential index-related gains without downside market risk, this is the best time in over 40 years to consider an annuity. If your annuity is over 2 years old, the newer products likely have far superior potential returns. Please contact me at yourpersonalbank.com or 866-268-4422 for more info. That's yourpersonalbank.com. This is Ferenc, host of the Your Personal Bank Show. Your Personal Bank is a financial concept that allows you to grow your money insured with guarantees, income tax-free, and highly liquid. Also, you have the potential to continue to earn interest on money you invest in other assets, purchase items, or pay expenses. How can you do this? First, invest in a high cash value policy to earn dividends. If you leave money in the policy, it'll grow like any investment, insured with guarantees and tax-free. Second, we establish a bank line of credit using the cash in the policy as collateral. When you access funds, you receive them from the bank. Typically, dividends earned are higher than the interest charged by the bank. You keep the difference. This is known as positive arbitrage. If you want to earn interest on money you spent or invest elsewhere, contact me at yourpersonalbank.com or 866-268-4422 for more info. That's yourpersonalbank.com.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ferenc Toth. Want more information? Contact Ferenc at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422. Now back to the show with Ferenc Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. This is Ferenc. If you want to reach me, you can do so at yourpersonalbank.com. You can go to the Your Personal Bank app, or you can email me at Ferenc, F-E-R-E-N-C, no E on the end, Ferenc at yourpersonalbank.com. So in the last segment, I mentioned how Jerome Powell, the current chair of the Federal Reserve, has expressed concern about the labor markets. He's pointed out in particular about the large and increasing number of foreign labor that we have in our economy, both legal and illegal. And this is a significant cause for concern because labor is one of the two things that Fed looks at in terms of interest rates. If inflation is at lower levels and the labor market looks healthy, they're more likely to lower interest rates. Unfortunately, both of those are not looking very good right now. Inflation came in a little bit hotter than expected at 3.9 annualized. That's not good. That doesn't bode well for lowering interest rates. In fact, the opposite. And the labor market is starting to show real signs of weakness. And the causes of this are quite obvious. Too many people have been allowed into this country, both legally and illegally, and that is weakening our labor markets. New York City, for example, now spends more per person than the median household earns in 2025. They spend over $81,000 per year on homeless people. And by the way, that's a floor. That excludes supportive housing, mental health response teams, and NYPD encampment costs. The projection from New York City for 2026 is $97,000 per person that the city will spend. Well, that's more than the average New Yorker earns in a year. So you have governments spending reckless amounts of money, which leads to a weakening economic situations and fraud. In fact, California has over 2,200 Medicare hospice organizations, while Florida only has about 200. Now, California has over 6 million residents over age 65, while Florida has about 5 million. So the senior population of both states is fairly close, about 1 million apart. Yet, California has over 10 times the Medicare certified hospice organizations. And when you zoom into LA County alone, it has almost 2,000 hospice providers just in LA County, which is more than 36 states combined and 33 times more than Florida, even though LA County has millions fewer seniors than the entire state of Florida has. 500 hospice agencies alone are operating within a 3-mile radius in the San Fernando Valley. Now, if that doesn't scream fraud, I don't know what does. And Nick Shirley, who is famous for exposing fraud in Minnesota, has done it again. He's exposed a lot of this fraud now in California. As he stated himself, the levels are far larger in California than Minnesota even. He pointed out the scam basically works like this. Fraudsters steal Medicare numbers. They fraudulently enroll healthy seniors with fake terminal diagnoses and bill Medicare an average of $29,000 per patient without delivering a single hour of care. The California Hospice Care Association president stated, "A Medicare number is more lucrative than a credit card." CMS Administrator Dr. Oz's estimate is that in LA County alone, there's over $3.5 billion of fraud, and 18% of all home health care billing in the entire United States is coming out of LA County alone. And what did California's Governor Gavin Newsom do in response to exposing all of this fraud? He attacked Nick Shirley on social media and has filed a civil rights complaint against Dr. Oz for pointing it out. Now, some people have pointed out, because of the ongoing war in Iran, that we may see higher gas and food price spikes. But one way that would offset that is deport the people that don't belong here or are being fraudulent. Why should we as citizens pay for the higher prices partially because of all the extra people that are here? And one of the positive things that I see happening, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has just unleashed the IRS with massive audits hitting banks, money service, and other financial institutions that have laundered billions in stolen welfare funds. For once, the IRS is finally fighting for hardworking Americans instead of going after us. They're following the money. They're auditing them. I hope they claw it back, prosecute everyone involved. And I've often said this, the IRS should not be used to go after citizens because it's a very adversarial relationship that then exists between the citizen and the government. And what is the basic purpose of government? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Protect its citizens, not make their life harder or more difficult or go after them. They should go after real fraudsters and those that do hurt the citizens. I think this is awesome. But the problem isn't just illegal immigration. It happens, we have massive problems in our legal immigration system also. University of Pennsylvania hands out about 1,600 diplomas per year for engineering across all disciplines each year. And they've just announced a notice for a desire to hire an H-1B data analyst with a salary of $79,000 a year. You mean to tell me out of the 1,600 graduates of the University of Pennsylvania that not one of them is qualified for this job? That's embarrassing or fraudulent. Meta has received over 5,000 H-1B approvals in 2025, while at the same time laying off thousands of American employees. Meta is currently facing a lawsuit for systematically preferring H-1B visa holders over American job candidates to cut their labor costs. It's estimated that an H-1B visa employee earns about 25 to 30% less on average than a U.S. citizen. Secondly, the ability for that foreign worker to be in the United States is tied to their job. This makes them more of a compliant employee for the company. And some work visa programs allow the companies to not have to pay any employment tax. So when you add up all the benefits, 25, 35% or so savings in labor costs for the company, less in taxes for the company, and a more compliant employee, you can understand why these companies are preferring foreign labor over U.S. citizens. Now, the rules are stacked against the U.S. citizen. I tend to be a free enterprise person. I'm not a fan of government interference. But again, what is the basic purpose of government? To protect its citizens, to benefit its citizens, to help their citizens pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, just like in our Declaration. If a government is not doing those things, and worse, even actively tilting the scales to make it the citizen's life more difficult, well, then the rules need to change, or the government needs to change the rules to be more in favor of the citizen. Microsoft in 2025 filed over 6,000 H-1B petitions. 78% of them happened to be for Indian nationals, and then at the same time laid off over 9,000 American workers. And according to Microsoft documents, the H-1B workers were paid 17 to 34% below market wages. Amazon is the single largest H-1B sponsor in the country. Over 10,000 H-1B approvals in 2025 alone. And famously, at the same time, Amazon has laid off thousands of American workers. The list goes on. You could go by company after company after company and find the same thing. In fact, there are hundreds of thousands of companies that 75% of their workforce is foreign-born. Some are as high as 90%. Recently, the Labor Department announced that there were over 600,000 unemployed in Texas. Now, I shared earlier, I believe in the last segment, that the way the government measures unemployment is those that are looking for work recently in the last few weeks. It doesn't count all working age adults that are out of a job. The numbers would be far greater if they were measured that way. That was changed in about 1994 by the Clinton administration. But even according to the government numbers, labor statistic numbers, there are over 600,000 unemployed in Texas. Yet, at the same time, there's over 3 million foreign workers in Texas. Now, if we have over 600,000 people in one state alone actively looking for work, and we have 5 times that number of people here through work visas and etc., you have to ask the question, why? Why is our government allowing that to happen? Now, the answer is quite obvious if you think about it. Cheaper labor for the companies benefits them. Why is our government tilting the scales and the rules and allowing this to happen? Lobbyists, election money, influence. Those are the obvious reasons. How do we change this? If our elected officials continue to allow these work visas at these tremendously high numbers, while at the same time, American workers, citizens are having difficulty finding jobs, some of the latest numbers over the last year or two, college graduates are pathetic. Something like I've seen a third, depending on the fields, and some of these are STEMs, many of these are STEMs graduates. So these are not the frivolous college degrees. Anywhere from a third to a half of many recent college graduates over the last year or two have been unable to find work in their field. When you have that many people struggling to find jobs, certainly qualified citizens, and you have a flood of work visas coming in from around the world, that's deeply inherently unfair. Our government has tilted the scales in favor of the foreign workers and the companies benefiting from the cheaper labor. This needs to stop. It should be the opposite. It should be more difficult to bring in a foreign worker. A company should have to pay twice as much or more to bring in a non-citizen, which would then incentivize the companies to hire citizens and only look elsewhere if they were truly unable to find that skill set. This is a problem that's been rapidly growing and becoming worse over the last number of years. And more people are waking up to this fact, and that's the good news. It's definitely weakening our labor market, which is weakening our economy, is concerning the Federal Reserve, and could be a real cause for recession. If you want to protect yourself from this volatility and uncertainty that I believe will continue at least for the foreseeable future, contact me at yourpersonalbank.com. I can show you how to grow your money safely, insured, with guarantees, unlimited upside, no downside risk, reduce your taxes, increase your liquidity, all of that. I've got some thoughts about our Senate and the Save America Act that I think you'll find very interesting, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned for more common sense from Ferenc. For more information, contact Ferenc at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422.
This is Ferenc, host of the Your Personal Bank Show. Your Personal Bank is a financial concept that allows you to grow your money insured, with guarantees, income tax-free, and highly liquid. Also, you have the potential to continue to earn interest on money you invest in other assets, purchase items, or pay expenses. How can you do this? First, invest in a high cash value policy to earn dividends. If you leave money in the policy, it'll grow like any investment, insured, with guarantees, and tax-free. Second, we establish a bank line of credit using the cash in the policy as collateral. When you access funds, you receive them from the bank. Typically, dividends earned are higher than the interest charged by the bank. You keep the difference. This is known as positive arbitrage. If you want to earn interest on money you spent or invest elsewhere, contact me at yourpersonalbank.com or 866-268-4422 for more info. That's yourpersonalbank.com. I'm Ferenc Toth, host of the Your Personal Bank Show. This is the golden era of fixed assets. Annuities and guaranteed lifetime income are paying the best rates in over 40 years. If you looked at annuities over 2 years ago, the numbers have increased significantly. If you own an annuity over 2 years old, the new products can not only pay your penalty to switch, but are often guaranteed to outperform your current product. For more info, contact me at yourpersonalbank.com or 866-268-4422. That's yourpersonalbank.com.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ferenc Toth. Want more information? Contact parents at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422. Now back to the show with Ferenc Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. This is Ferenc. If you want to reach me, you can do so at yourpersonalbank.com or the Your Personal Bank app, or you can email me at Ferenc, F-E-R-E-N-C, no E, again, Ferenc at yourpersonalbank.com. Yes, you will reach me. In the last segment, I was discussing some issues with the labor market, work visas, Federal Reserve is concerned. This is definitely something that could lead to recession. More and more people are concerned. Many people are having difficulty obtaining jobs or even keeping jobs. Recent graduates of many of the STEM career fields, for example, are finding great difficulty in obtaining work because we have so many foreign workers here, and it's like a flood that just keeps coming in and getting worse. And sometimes have asked me the question, why do Democratic politicians obtain so many votes? Well, the answer actually is really quite simple. Many of these voters are not interested in electing good people or even good leaders. Their only concern is electing people who keep providing them funding from entitlement programs. And I know some get upset when I bring that up, but when you have 43 million people on food stamps, and if they're eligible to vote, here's the real world. Many have been given driver's license and Social Security cards. Approximately half the states in the country have no form of voter ID. Who's to say they're voting or not voting? And in fact, the incentive is for them to vote. If they're receiving government benefits, entitlements, whatever, they're going to be motivated to maintain that. Many of them are receiving them illegally. They should not be doing so. They're breaking the law. There are laws on the books. If you come here illegally, you should not be on any type of government assistance. If you come here legally and you get on the government assistance, your sponsor is supposed to be responsible for you, not the U.S. government, which is ultimately the taxpayer. Yet we have tens of millions of people, we know this for a fact, these are the government statistics, breaking existing laws on the books. If they're breaking a law to receive benefits, whether it's food stamps, government housing, or whatever, any other entitlement that they're receiving, why would they have any hesitation of breaking another law and voting? Roughly half the states in the country, there's no ID laws. You don't have to prove anything. Millions have Social Security numbers, driver's licenses, so they can look as legit as anyone else as a non-citizen. I mean, to think that a person is breaking the rules to either get here or breaking the rules to get entitlements would suddenly be honorable and say, oh, I'm not going to vote because that's against the law. That's just naive. And the Save America Act, which is polls show that over 80% of all Americans are in favor, over 70% of Democrats, in fact, 95% of Republicans. It's attacked oftentimes. It'll make it more difficult to vote, or the conservatives want to deny people their right to vote. All that over 80% of Americans want, which is basic common sense, is they want to require an ID to vote. They don't want them voting more than once. They want the person to be alive. We know that stuff goes on. And they should be a citizen, required a proof of citizenship. And do you know that ID and proof of citizenship to vote is required in nearly every country in the world? I'm not aware of another country in the world that doesn't require that other than the United States. That's how ludicrous this is. In a recent U.S. voter verification search from the Social Security Administration, they could not match over 28 million voter subscriptions to their database. 17% cast ballots from another different state. 21% filled out a ballot on the behalf of somebody else. And 8% were offered money to fill out ballots. This is why proof of citizenship, voter ID, needs to be required, just like it is in every other country in the world. And the House Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, is trying to pretend like there's no way to get to 51 votes for the SAVE Act. Well, here's the thing he's not bringing up. He's refusing to twist arms or use the leverage that he has. The Senate Majority Leader can force senators to change votes when they really want to. They can withhold funding on favorite projects. They can withhold fundraising for their next reelection. They can attach the SAVE Act to other must-pass legislation, enforcing it through that way. I mean, this is how they get unpopular things done when they only have a 20% support. For example, the last Ukrainian funding, which was $60 billion, only had about 20% support. It was deeply unpopular. But they got it through by attaching Ukraine funding to other legislation that was needed. That could be done with the SAVE Act. And to give you an idea how bad it is, John Thune, the majority leader, do you realize that he allowed 14 of Joe Biden's judicial appointments go through during recess? Yet he hasn't allowed a single Trump appointment go through recess. They're having these 2-minute pro forma sessions every few days to prevent the Senate from going into recess. This is the first time in the history of the United States that the Senate has prevented a president from making recess appointments from the same political party. Does that sound to you like John Thune is being a team player? No, it's the opposite. His freedom score, his voting record is 51%, which is an F. That is what is, by definition, a rhino, a Republican in name only. That's what we're fighting. So the problem isn't the people who spend 4 to 8 years in the White House. This is what many people are coming to realize. The problem is those that spend 30 or 40 years in Congress. I'll give you another example. Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader in the House. He only pays a little over $200 per year in property taxes on his Brooklyn condo. Based on current values, his property taxes should be about $14,000 annually, not $200. You know why this is the case? It's because when Hakeem Jeffries became an assemblyman in Brooklyn, he had the law changed so that it would benefit him. And I think this is another point that really illustrates the point. Time spent in federal government roles. George Washington, 8 years. Thomas Jefferson, 10 years. John Adams, 12 years. Nancy Pelosi, 39 years. Mitch McConnell, 41 years. Chuck Schumer, 45 years. This explains everything. It's the founders versus grifters. And these grifters in Congress are exempt from Obamacare, vaccine mandates. Members of Congress are exempt from insider trading crimes, Freedom of Information Act. They're exempt from FISA, warrantless spying. They're exempt from term limits. Congress is the problem. And I thought this was an interesting thought when I saw somebody posted this. Rome was the strongest empire in the world for centuries. And one of the primary reasons why Rome fell was a corrupt Senate. Think about that for a minute. And when you have a government where many of your elected officials are representing foreigners instead of Americans, that's the very definition of taxation without representation. And what do I mean by that? It's estimated that 20 to 30 of the current House members are represented by illegal aliens because the census counts everyone, not citizens. And the majority of those are in blue states like California, New York, Chicago. So their representation, the reason they have a House seat literally is because the census counted illegals or people that do not belong here, or work visas, foreign workers on work visas. That's who they're representing, not U.S. citizens, which is the opposite of the purpose of government. I've shared this a couple of times. It's worth repeating. What is the purpose of government? Why does it exist? What should it do? It's supposed to protect the citizens, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And when it's not doing that and it's giving preferential treatment to non-citizens, it is not only not doing its job, but it's doing the very opposite of its job, and it's harming or hurting or disadvantaging those citizens. That needs to change. Those people need to be replaced. I get asked this a lot. Things are so different than they were just even a few years ago or a decade or two ago. Many things feel upside down or backwards. It's like we're in opposite world. So it's unsettling. And sometimes it's hard to put your finger on why that is the case. The reality is far too many people have been allowed into this country, both legally and illegally, and it's created a whole lot of problems economically, inflation, housing, crime, It's caused us to have a number of people in power who are representing their interest over ours. It's obvious. It's beyond obvious. The recent State of the Union address, when Trump asked the Congress the question, stand if you agree with this, that the first priority of the government is to represent its citizens. And I believe none of the Democrats stood up because their political existence, their very jobs that they have, are dependent, most of them, on the fact that they have illegals and foreigners, legal and otherwise, here. They're representing the foreign-born folks, not the citizens. So their interest lies there. It's the opposite. This creates a lot of uncertainty, a lot of volatility. Problem didn't occur overnight. It's not going to be solved overnight. Getting this removed, it's like removing a cancer. It's not pleasant sometimes. It's going to cause uncertainty, volatility in the markets. A lot of people are going to feel anxious. When it comes to your finances, what do? Protect yourself. Uncertainty creates volatility. Unlimited upside, no downside risk. Index products do that for you. It's the best time in over 40 years. It's the golden age of fixed assets. We got products that have averaged 10, 11, 12% for the past decade plus. I'm on a crusade with this show to bust one of the biggest myths that exists out there in the financial world, and that is if you want guarantees, you have to get strong returns. That's just not true. It's not true anymore. If you have the right indexes, the right products, you can get strong returns with guarantees. If you're interested in that, contact me at yourpersonalbank.com or email me at Ferenc, F-E-R-E-N-C, no E, F-E-R-E-N-C at yourpersonalbank.com. Stay tuned in the last segment because we're getting close to tax time. I'm going to share some information about taxes that you probably haven't thought of. Or maybe you have, but haven't been able to articulate the words to what you're feeling. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned for more common sense from Ferenc. For more information, contact Ferenc at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422.
This is Ferenc, host of the Your Personal Bank Show. My show focuses on creating tax-free buckets of money, insured, guaranteed, highly liquid, and the ability to create positive arbitrage. Did you know this is the best time in over 40 years to invest in index annuities? An index annuity allows you to 1. Grow your money safely without market risk. Once gains are locked in, they're guaranteed against future market loss. 2. Double-digit potential upside on good market years with no losses in bad years. Principal is guaranteed. 3. A 7 to 8% fixed interest option is available in the first year. If you're interested in growing your money with potential index-related gains without downside market risk, this is the best time in over 40 years to consider an annuity. If your annuity is over 2 years old, the newer products likely have far superior potential returns. Please contact me at yourpersonalbank.com or 866-268-4422 for more info. That's yourpersonalbank.com. This is Ferenc, host of the Your Personal Bank Show. Your Personal Bank is a financial concept that allows you to grow your money insured, with guarantees, income tax-free, and highly liquid. Also, you have the potential to continue to earn interest on money you invest in other assets, purchase items, or pay expenses. How can you do this? First, invest in a high cash value policy to earn dividends. If you leave money in the policy, it'll grow like any investment, insured, with guarantees, and tax-free. Second, we establish a bank line of credit using the cash in the policy as collateral. When you access funds, you receive them from the bank. Typically, dividends earned are higher than the interest charged by the bank. You keep the difference. This is known as positive arbitrage. If you want to earn interest on money you spent or invest elsewhere, contact me at yourpersonalbank.com or 866-268-4422 for more info. That's yourpersonalbank.com.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ferenc Toth. Want more information? Contact Ferenc at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422. Now back to the show with Ferenc Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. This is Ferenc. If you want to reach me, you can do so at yourpersonalbank.com or the Your Personal Bank app, or you can email me at Ferenc, F-E-R-E-N-C, no E on the end, F-E-R-E-N-C at yourpersonalbank.com. Yes, you will reach me. We're getting close to tax time. And I want to bring up some thoughts about that many of you may never have thought of, or if you had, it's more of a visceral feeling that maybe you haven't been able to articulate it or put it into words. But this is something that's bugged me for literally decades. I've known it. I've felt it. I get that feeling in the pit of my stomach when I think about taxes. It's always irritated me. I haven't always understood why, but recently a lot of things have happened to really clarify the reasons why for myself and millions of other Americans. And here it is. Today, the average American works over 100 days just to cover their tax burden. 3.5 months of the year, 29% of the year goes towards paying taxes. This isn't just money. This is blood, sweat, and tears. Your time. That's something that cannot be replaced. Money can be replaced, but time cannot. And to make matters worse, I've always felt this, but now, again, it's really come to light. I always felt like we were overtaxed. And I always wondered, where is all this money going? This has been going on for decades, but it certainly has gotten worse more recently. Doge, Nick Shirley, and others have famously exposed staggering levels of fraud. Trump has expressed a number of times that if we just eliminated half or more of the fraud in the government, that our budget would be balanced. Do you understand what that means? That's about $2 trillion a year. Those are numbers that are hard to fathom. And the person that's out there working hard, building their business, building their career, putting in 40, 50, 60 hours or more a week so they can feed their family, try to build something for the future. There's no other way to put it. You're getting screwed. And it's sickening. You see, a lot of people still believe that the income tax in particular funds essential services and creates fairness through progressive rates. Higher income earners pay a higher percentage. That it supports a social safety net and it's necessary for civilization. But what an income tax actually does, it confiscates a large percentage of productive labor before you ever see it. It funds foreign wars, corporate subsidies, bureaucratic bloat. It creates armies of compliance parasites, tax preparers, auditors, collectors. Turns April 15th into a day that most people hate. With the IRS, you're guilty before you can prove yourself innocent. You have to beg permission and prove and produce receipts and all this other stuff just so you can keep your own money. The reality is, some of it goes to infrastructure, but it's a pretty small percentage of the overall total. What's really happening is you're funding a protection racket. It's an organized crime program, in my opinion, that puts the mafia to shame. And they've even convinced many people to thank them for it. Let me give you an example. We pay taxes to fund TSA, DHS, etc. These are Department of Homeland Security departments to protect the homeland, protect us, the citizens. We're currently in a war with Iran, the largest sponsor of terrorism in the world. Our government has stated that in the past 4 or 5 years, when the borders were open, over 11,000 known terrorists were allowed into the country. There's been an increase in terrorist attacks around the country. It's been reported that Iran is attempting to activate various terror cells. If there was ever a time that we needed Homeland Security, protect the citizens, it's now. Yet, we have Democrats in Congress refusing to fund departments of Homeland Security, which means they're stealing our tax dollars and refusing to keep our country safe. Again, what is the purpose of government? I've shared this before. I'm going to repeat it again. To benefit the citizens. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Remember that document called the Declaration of Independence? And when a government fails to do that, they need to be replaced. And if the government is doing the opposite to make life more difficult or challenging or less safe for the citizen, whoever's involved with that needs to be replaced. And I'm seeing this more and more. Posts, comments, thoughts from people. Some are afraid to say so. Others are getting less so. But more and more people are having trouble getting up to go to work so that they can go pay a bunch in taxes to our government than to see much of that go to insane levels of fraud. Daycare fraud, hospice fraud, SNAP, Medicare fraud, tens of millions of people on food stamp. The government statistics themselves state that about 42 million are on food stamps and about half of them are illegal aliens, which means they have no business being on it. It's illegal for them to be on that. And about another 30% are foreign-born work visa people, stuff like that, who also have no legal right to it, yet they're on the system and getting it. And who's paying for it? Those that get up and go to work and pay taxes. And I'm seeing, again, that sentiment. More and more people are finding that difficult. If this continues, folks, this will lead to an unraveling of our society. One of the hallmarks of Western civilization has been the rule of law. We have sets of rules that we all agree to and we follow through representative government. We elect representatives to help us create and enforce those laws. And we, in general, abide by those. And that's what makes Western civilization work, why it's historically been a safe place to live, a society to live in, much more so than most other parts of the world and throughout history. Fraud and things like that are very, very common in many parts of the world, even today. Not so much here, but that is changing. You're following the rules, trying to do things the right way, and then you see these people who can't speak our language, don't assimilate into our society. In fact, for the most part, hate us. Yet someone, they didn't do this themselves, someone showed them and taught them how to fraudulently bill the U.S. government or their state governments and receive millions in benefits from a daycare center or hospice center or whatever, fraudulently. They're driving $200,000 vehicles, buying homes for cash, beautiful places, and they shouldn't even be here. And yet someone who goes to work, works hard, does things the right way, and is struggling to make ends meet. I shared in the first segment, about half of Americans are now having a hard time paying rent or mortgage payments. That causes tremendous levels of anger and resentment and will lead to an unraveling of the society unless this gets resolved, and it needs to get resolved fairly quickly. Don't think it can't happen here. That's probably what they thought in Rome too, didn't they? And look what ultimately happened. Add insult to injury. You have leftist Democratic politicians attacking those when they bring up, like Nick Shirley or Doge. We saw the attacks on Elon Musk when they tried to expose this level of fraud. You see, if your actual concern was protecting the poor and the elderly, for example, the disabled, you'd be one of the loudest voices for demanding the fraud to be prosecuted. I mean, every dollar stolen from Medicaid is a dollar that doesn't reach a sick kid. And every dollar in food stamp scam is food taken from someone who actually needs it, or it costs the rest of us more to pay for it because of inflation. Every dollar stolen through the Social Security system means it's less likely you're going to receive the benefits or full benefits through your retirement. That threatens the elderly. We all know the Social Security Administration trustee reports for years have stated that Social Security is going to run out of money in about a decade, and so is Medicare. A big part of the reason of that is because of all the fraud. That's just the facts. And what we're seeing is when a Doge effort or a Nick Shirley exposes fraud, they get attacked. Not lauded, but attacked. You have to start asking a question, who's benefiting from letting all this fraud continue? Because it's not the poor American citizen or the elderly citizen. If you do work hard and you pay taxes, you should be pissed. I know I am. But many of these elected officials, majority of them Democrats, just don't seem to care. A lot of them wanted to hide or they'll even attack. Gavin Newsom, governor of California, attacked on social media Nick Shirley for exposing hundreds of millions of dollars of hospice fraud. This should make you angry. This should make you demand change. This should make you demand the Senate pass the SAVE Act so that these people that are benefiting from all this fraud, getting all this entitlement money, and then voting for those that keep the money train rolling, it all stops. We don't need to keep sending financial aid to over 100 countries worldwide. We're still sending money to the Taliban. Do you realize that? Millions of dollars every month. And you know who's doing that? Who's continuing that? Congress. Our country is now over $39 trillion in debt. And I'm convinced the majority of that, if not all of that, is due to fraud. Stopping it changing it, changing the direction of our country and our economy is not going to be easy. It's difficult, but necessary. I encourage you to get involved in whatever way possible. Call John Thune, Senate Majority Leader, and tell him to get the Save America Act passed. Over 80% of Americans are in favor. We're a representative republic. If our representatives can't pass a law that's one of the most popular in recent memory, if they don't support it, do everything you can to replace them when they come up for re-election. We need to send a message. But again, this is not a fight that's going to happen overnight. This isn't a problem that's occurred overnight. It's going to take time. It's a big fight. It's a big battle. But where else are you going to go? What else are we going to do? It's one we have to fight. It's going to create uncertainty. It's going to create volatility. It's going to create problems. We're going to be uncomfortable at times. But if we can win this battle, if we can turn the tide, it'll be worth it, both for us and our legacy. And when it comes to your finances, can you protect yourself and still get strong returns when the economy is good and the market's good? Yes. Can you have guarantees to protect the downside? Absolutely. That's a common fallacy, a myth that I'm determined to bust. Index products offer that. We have products that offer 10, 11, 12% average annual returns over the past decade. That is not hyperbole. That is fact. And that is money in your account. Net of everything. If you don't believe me, contact me at yourpersonalbank.com. I'll show you. I'll show you the numbers. I'll show you the products. I'll show to you exactly how it works. It doesn't take long. Give me 15 minutes. It might change your financial life and your financial future and allow you to thrive through what I believe is going to be a volatile future short term, but hopefully a much brighter future long term. Contact me at yourpersonalbank.com for more information. Stay tuned next week to the Your Personal Bank Show. And as long as it's on our money, in God we trust. Concerned about market risk? I'm Ference Toth, host of the Your Personal Bank Show. The S&P 500 valuations are higher than at any time ever recorded in stock market history. This includes 1929 and 1999. We all know what happened afterwards. It wasn't pretty. Elevated valuations increase risk to the downside. Annuities and Your Personal Bank offer unlimited upside with no downside market risk. Your principal is guaranteed. Contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com to maximize returns, reduce market risk, increase liquidity, and reduce taxes.
Contact Ference at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422. This show is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information. The presenter and guests of this program do not engage in legal, accounting, or tax advice. Professional advice regarding your situation should be sought if required. Some products discussed may have limitations and not be available in all states. Excessive unpaid loans may affect performance. Distributions may become taxable if not managed properly.
I'm Ference Toth, host of the Your Personal Bank Show. This is the golden era of fixed assets. Annuities and guaranteed lifetime income are paying the best rates in over 40 years. If you looked at annuities over 2 years ago, the numbers have increased significantly. If you own an annuity over 2 years old, the new products can not only pay your penalty to switch, but are often guaranteed to outperform your current product. For more info, contact me at yourpersonalbank.com or 866-268-4422. That's yourpersonalbank.com.